Hello. So this is some of the books I got over the last, say, month and a half, maybe less, maybe just this month. I don't remember, but I went to a lot of bookstores this month. So the first one is On History by Hobsbawm. He has a lot of history books, and I think this is his philosophy of history. I want to get into the methods and philosophies of history. I realized I've read a lot of histories, but I actually haven't studied the methodologies of history. That makes sense. This next one is a companion to historiography. This one is a pretty big book. It's pretty small font, and it's pretty exhaustive and systematic, which is what I was looking for. There's another book called The Blackwell Companion to Historiography, which I also want. So medieval world, East and West, early modern historiography, reflecting on the modern age, context for the writing of history. Yeah, it's pretty big. Pretty excited about that one. This one, How the World Thinks, Julian Baggini, I believe it's pronounced, A Global History of Philosophy. So this is just a history of philosophy with a less Western bend towards it. It includes more Eastern or Middle Eastern or African thought, I believe. Yeah, I only got it because I'm currently collecting a bunch of history of philosophy books, and this was a bit of a different approach. But my suspicion is that the history of Western philosophy is going to be the most systematic and well-documented type of philosophy. But we'll see. Ghost Wars, The Secret History of the CIA, Afghanistan, Bin Laden, from the Soviet invasion to September 2001. This I got because I'm currently going through a really big Afghan history book by Jonathan Lee, which I'm really enjoying. And so I decided that I would get more things on Afghan history. There's another book out there that is about the military conflicts that have occurred in Afghanistan, and it's a history of war book. I don't know if I'll get it, but because I want to do one country. I want to the history of one country at a time, and so I'm already at 3 or 4 books for Afghan history. Actually, I think it's 5. So it's getting kind of big, and they're not small books, but we'll see. The Enlightenment Reader. So this is a series of books called the Portable Readers. I have one on Carl Jung that I really enjoyed, and I decided to look up the rest of the series, and this is interesting to me. So this is a bunch of different segments of different Enlightenment writers construed in such a way that it's almost like a narrative that you're being provided. For example, I believe David Hume is in here. And it's not the entirety of David Hume. It's just, an essay concerning human understanding, Locke, Leibniz, A Treatise on Human Nature, David Hume. But it's not the full thing, right? It's only about 12 pages or so. I thought that was interesting. I've already read some of those primary sources, so it'll be a bit of overlap. But I think having it put in a single source like that is kind of interesting. So this anthology series, this is another series of books that I really like. An anthology, Wiley Blackwell. There's an anthology of logic. There's an anthology of bioethics, an anthology of epistemology. There's a bunch of them. And this one is the anthology of philosophy, Western philosophy. Western philosophy and anthology. And it's organized quite interestingly. So anthologies tend to be collections of primary sources of writings. And this one is very interesting. So there's a heading here, Knowledge and Certainty, and it gets a bunch of primary sources. Again, David Hume, Inquiry Concerning Human Understanding. Being and Reality is another section here. Language and Meaning, Mind and Body, The Self and Freedom, God and Religion, Science and Method, Morality and Good Life, Authority and State. This is a really exhaustive book, which I love this series. It's such a great series, and I would highly recommend buying books from that series. Let's see, the next one. Time, The Price of Time. So the real story of interest. So I was in a bookstore, and I happened to have seen this. I think I've seen this book a few times. And I never really understood what it was because the header of it, it read to me like I judged this book by its cover the first few times I've seen it, thinking that this was a self-help book. Little did I know that this is a history of interest rates, which is super because I really enjoy reading these kind of layperson finance books beside either a math book or a accounting textbook or like a financial accounting textbook, something like that, right? It's a good supplement, good complement to my studies. So I got this. Let me see. I can't even find the table of contents, but apparently it's a pretty popular book. Historical interest, how low interest rates begot lower rates, and the game of marbles. So those are the 3 sections in that book. I have not, so this is again, I was in a bookstore, the Russo-Ukrainian War. This is a very famous author. I've now read 2 of his books. I've read his history of Ukraine, I believe. And he has another one that is pretty popular that I can't remember. I think it's the history of like Russian foreign policy or something. And then he has like a history of Russia proper, I believe. I forget. I have so many books now. I think I have like 2,000 books now. So I saw him. I first recognized the name, and then I was like, "What? The topic is interesting." So I got it for that reason. But I don't have any specific interest in that conflict at the moment. Blood and Iron, a military history of German-speaking people since the 1500s. I got this because I'm gonna do a history of Germany stack. I have quite a few books now. It's actually quite excessive. I think it's over on the other side of my room here. It's like getting into 12 or 13 books. And these books, as you can see, German history books are not small. That's a pretty small font in the book, and it's like 700 plus pages. Yeah. But I saw this and I was like, well, okay, I'll get it. Because people also recommend this book as well. It's a pretty popular book. Let's see the table of contents: balancing war and peace, accepting war as permanent, professionalizing war, democratizing war, nationalizing war. Yeah, that all sounds pretty much like German history to me, to be honest. Power. So I got the Power in Progress. I got this because of Darren Acemoglu. I have a few of Darren Acemoglu's books. I also have his textbook on developmental economics. And the subheader of this is our 1,000-year struggle over technology and prosperity. But the book actually makes arguments that technology has contributed to some degree to inequality, which is very not what I've understood technology to be. Thomas Piketty has a book on inequality, and he's made the argument that in the last 100 years, inequality has become better, as in like people have become more equal in terms of wealth. Overall, I mean, in a 100-year period, obviously there's 10-year fluctuations. There's variance in that time series data, but yeah, this will be interesting. This next book is another book I found in the bookstore, Prisoners of Ourselves, Totalitarianism in Everyday Life. And the only reason I got it is because there was a really interesting essay on freedom in here because I have a huge stack of books that are related to the topic of freedom. If you're following my Instagram, you might have seen this. And I decided to get this as a way to fuel some of my own thinkings about freedom. That's the only reason why I got this. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have gotten it. It doesn't seem like it's like a robust, thorough analysis. It seems like, Meditations by Marcus Aurelius is kind of like patchwork. It almost seems like that, like aphorisms, you could say, which I tend not to like. I prefer like systematic, complex analysis where you have like 10 or 6 variables in your worldview and they all relate to one another and so on and so forth. The Future of Geography, Tim Marshall. So Tim Marshall recently published an excessive amount of books, at least from what I've been seeing on Amazon. And I liked Prisoners of Geography, and I liked the red one. What was the red one? Prisoners of Geography was this blue one. Then there's another one, I forget what it's called. And I read his book on the Kosovo conflict. And I don't think it's Balkans conflict. And now this one I was interested in for a very long time, and it's about space politics and how countries are coming up with policies to deal with political issues related to space. This is like the geopolitics of space, okay? I don't know if this is going to be any good because, again, he's been publishing an excessive amount of books, but we'll see. Tim Marshall hasn't failed me so far. So now this next book is a book that I got because, as I said before, I was reading this Afghan history book. And in the Afghan history book, a lot of the sources used are these documents or books that were written by random like envoys or cartographers, geologists, archaeologists, whatever. They would go to different countries. They write about the people, the politics, the geography, ways to march armies, the economy. And this is what this book is, I believe, of Constantinople. It goes over the different, like this person, obviously there might be some bias here. This is going to be like kind of like an ethnography. And ethnographies are obviously always biased. So you have routes, descriptions of buildings, climate, health condition of the city's inhabitants, mythological and historical traditions, political and administrative divisions, public buildings. It's just someone's description of Constantinople, and it wasn't meant to be like some kind of mainstream nonfiction book. It was probably meant to be read by somebody in the UK or whatever country sent this person. This is only volume 1. I don't know if there's other volumes. I meant to check, actually, because I saw this in a bookstore. But I decided this would be interesting to read. Now, these last 2 books are you've probably seen them before. They're pretty popular. Our Brains, The Matter of Things, Our Brains, Our Delusions, and the Unmaking of the World. So this is Ian McGilchrist's book on the brain, and he ties a lot of the brain into how people think, generally speaking, throughout the day. Specifically, as it comes to like Western philosophy, he has a lot to say about how we think and how the brain influences how we think. And I think he could probably aptly be characterized as an embodied cognition theorist, from what I understand, arguing that, for example, creativity or logical thinking can be located to one region in the brain, and that the nature of the brain determines the nature of those thoughts to some extent. But I haven't read this yet, so I could be strawmanning him, but that's the general sentiment I've gotten from his books, his other books. And I know these are pretty popular. So this is the second volume, Matter of Things. And let's see, how is it even organized? The chapters. I didn't even actually look at the book. I wanted these books for so long, and then I saw them in the bookstore and decided, yeah, I'm going to get it now. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I'm excited to read it. Yeah, attention, perception, judgment, apprehension, emotional, social intelligence. Yeah, it should be a fun read. So those are the latest books that I got I think it was this month. If you have any other books you want me to buy, let me know. I think some of the books I bought, not this video, but the previous video, were recommended by you guys, and you guys did a good job on picking some of them. But with that being said, bye-bye.